Kung Fu movies are freaking awesome. Not only are you sitting down to watch a group of people who have thoroughly trained their bodies to perform feats of magnificent martial arts and acrobatics, but also to witness people rise to the best of their abilities, usually through almost impossible odds, and not only that, they save others while discovering their greatest potential. Friendships are formed, enemies are outbested, and heroes are made. Pure awesomeness meets relatable stories, Kung Fu representing the ultimate transformation of one's person, finding self-control, inner peace. For the hero's journey, it's the perfect genre for depicting growth and self-discovery, this being presented by the hero physically, mentally, and sometimes even more. During the genre's height in the 70s, we saw many exceptional films that would not only define Kung Fu for the culture, but also strengthen its relationship with the masses. Now we have many people to thank for this. The Shaw brothers, Jimmy Wang Yu, Gordon Liu, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and countless directors and choreographers that helped shape these actors into the living legends that they are today. But one hero's name that many don't praise, or at least praise enough, is the one and only Lau Kar-leung. This man was not only a director, the dude was a stuntman, a choreographer, a writer, and even an actor. Lau started his stuntman career in the 1950s. He was the ideal man for all movies that possessed hand-to-hand combat, especially when it came to martial arts. You see, Lau was the man to go to because he was a master at Hung Gar, a family member to Kung Fu, also known as Southern Shaolin Kung Fu. In the 1960s, Lau would go on to work for the famous Shaw Brothers studios, where he finally would get a shot at the director's chair. His first solo feature film was called The Spiritual Boxer, and was released in 1975. From then on, dude just kept pumping out classic after classic. I'm talking Executioners from Shaolin, Heroes of the East, 8-Diagram Pole Fighter, Drunken Master 2 with Jackie Chan, and the list goes on and on. But we aren't here to talk about those movies. We are here to talk about these movies. Oh my goodness, where do I begin with this god tier level of filmmaking?
Where do I start?
These complete gems of martial arts movies. Let's begin with Gordon Liu. The man is just absolutely unmatched. The amount of skill this man possesses is just incredible. He was perfect under the direction of Lau Kar-leung. You see, during this time, not many Kung Fu movies would have long takes of fighting. Most Kung Fu movies at the time would have the fighters do only a few moves at a time and then they would circle each other for a bit. Rinse, repeat. Yeah, I'm exaggerating a little, but you just become completely spoiled by this stuff here. In some of Lau's movies, you not only have Gordon Liu doing nearly 20 moves in a cut, but you'll also have a slew of extras in the background doing 20 moves themselves. But back to Gordon Liu. The man did 19 movies with Lau Kar-leung, and also performed as Pai Mei in Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill. What an absolute Chad. Not only was Liu a fantastic martial artist, but he was also a really good actor. He'll go from playing a serious role in the first movie, and then will go completely comedic in the second one. Yeah, Chao Chin-shi looks exactly like San Te, but Liu played him perfectly. I actually believed this was a different character, and that's pretty hard to do when you don't even change the appearance of him. Number 1. The 36th Chamber of Shaolin. During the era of the Qing dynasty, a young student learns about ethics and basic human rights from a teacher that is involved in a rebellion against the local Manchu government. The young student joins the cause to help rebel against the powers that be. He is soon discovered of being a rebel after his friends are killed and his father's shop destroyed. He then escapes to the local temple of Shaolin to train in Kung Fu. Not only are his plans to learn Kung Fu, but also to share it with others so that they may use it against the oppressive regime. Through brutal training and grueling tasks, he is given the title of San Te and is ready to return to his people. This story truly is one for the ages. What's great about San Te's journey is that you can truly see his transformation throughout the film. His training lasts for about 40 minutes of screen time, and you see him subtly change with each passing chamber. Keep in mind that his training is quite entertaining and sometimes downright comical. One of the chambers that he has to go through is a room full of punching bags, and your job is to walk through it, banging your head as hard as you can, so that you can experience what it's like to take a punch. I'm also assuming it's to help you sharpen your senses and focus your skills. He trains on his own without the other students so that he may rise to their level and not be left behind. His determination gets stronger knowing that he is responsible for freeing an entire town. He eventually passes all of his fellow students and rises through the ranks faster than any monk, beating all records. Not only is San Te a physically stout individual born for hand-to-hand combat, but he's also quite clever. He's extremely smart in his approach to teaching himself. Take this example right here. Sante has to cross this little pool of water using only this thin log. If he falls in the water, then he can't enter the dining hall to eat.
Do not enter the dining hall until you are fully cleansed.
So dude takes 2 buckets and trains himself to run across them overnight so that he can get a grasp on how to balance himself. By the time it's morning, dude can do it with 1 leg. A little unbelievable, but it fits with the pacing of the movie. The story is good, well thought out, but nothing that original. There are some points when you ask yourself, like, why are you doing this? It would be much easier to do this instead. Like when dude asks, have you seen anybody around here recently? Just say,
they went that away.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's alright.
Don't just run away. But none of you go to see Kung Fu movies for the story. You go for the fights. And if this footage has not impressed you already, I don't know what will. Alright, so take a look at this fight scene right here. So you see Sante having to fight this dude here who seems pretty skilled enough to handle himself. This dude is walking backward, Sante is walking forward while they are both sparring. Not only is Sante fighting this dude, he's also fighting these dudes with spears on the right of him and these other dudes with spears on the left of him. It's crazy. I mean, yeah, it's no Daredevil hallway scene, but I guarantee you this is the kind of stuff that inspired it. Back on Sante being creative, look at this new weapon he creates. A new 3-sectional staff. I emphasize the story of this movie the most because I find it the best and the most interesting out of the 3. But don't let that discourage you from watching the rest. Even though the first one has a more interesting story, the second ups the ante on a different level. Number 2. Return to the 36th Chamber. Whenever I show these movies to my friends, they always come back to me saying that this one was their favorite, and I definitely see why. The story is about this con man named Chao Chin-shi, and his journey to try and help these workers not be abused by their evil employer. The kind of employer who docks your pay without advance notice and constantly abuses you on the job. Chin-shi first tries to disguise himself as a monk, but the workers soon realize that it's just a disguise and nothing more. He finally travels to the 36th Chamber to train under Sante, now played by a different actor. Now there's one thing I should warn you guys about. This movie is straight up kung fu comedy. Is this a bad thing, you ask? No, not at all. This movie realizes how crazy all of this is. When Shin-Shei goes to train under Sante, he gets taught in the most BS way possible, and it's great. Sante says that the temple is in need of repair, and that Shin-Shei should go and put up scaffolding around the whole temple. At that point, Sante agrees to train him.
Temple is in poor repair. Put up some scaffolding to fix up the roof.
As Shin-Shei does as he's told, he teaches himself kung fu in the process by watching other people. By the time he's completed the scaffolding, he knows kung fu so well that Sante doesn't even bother to train him.
Master, you take care.
If I haven't convinced you that this is a comedy, well then take a look at this. The end fight is them literally doing kung fu with benches. Kung fu with benches. Or as I like to call it, bench fu. And again, it's fun seeing Gordon Liu play a more comedic role, and also seeing himself counseled by his former character. This movie is really creative, and it's a pleasure to watch it be different than its predecessor. Also, you can really tell that both Gordon and Lau have improved their craft by the second one. Between the first and second movie, these two guys worked with each other on Tang Lang, Heroes of the East, and Dirty Ho. By this time, these guys were champs and brought their A-game when it came to everything. Number 3. Disciples of the 36th Chamber. A local troublemaker student chooses to pick a fight with the head of the local Manchus. His mother, who has taught him kung fu his whole life, decides to send him to the monk Sante so that he may learn to be more disciplined and behaved. During Sante's teachings, he constantly sneaks out and over to the Manchus' camp to show off. Eventually, the cocky student gets tricked into conspiring in an assassination plot to kill all of the monks in the Shaolin Temple. I don't really have much to say about this movie. I'm not going to lie to you guys, it definitely is a step down from the first two. Not when it comes to the technical aspect or even the action and the choreography. It's the story that really suffers in this film. The problem with our story is that our character, Fong Se-yuk, does not progress at all in this story. He has no arc in a movie that needs him to have an arc. Now you're probably saying, Slov, you said we didn't come here for the story. That's true, I did say that, but you need a story to care about what's going on. Random violence with no connection to a story is boring. These fight scenes are nowhere near as compelling if they didn't have characters that you cared about doing things that actually mattered. Matter meaning things that I care about and have a satisfying ending. Even though the story is not the best, the fight scenes are somewhat humorous and interesting, but in the end, you know you could have done better. They sacrifice growth of a character for a joke. I know I'm a little hard on this movie, but still give it a watch. Not everything in it is bad. There is some funny jokes here and there, and it's awesome to see Gordon Liu return as Sante. He uses these really cool new weapons. Even though I'm not as invested in the story, the action is still fun enough to keep watching. I'm always down to watch Lau Kar-leung direction, at least once. These movies were fun to talk about and do a quick review on. It was difficult to not spoil too much for you guys so you would be interested in watching it yourselves. These truly are good movies and they do what they were designed to do. Teach and entertain the youth in China at the time. I say teach because these movies did teach you important lessons. Only through courage can you stand up to an oppressive government. Power only comes through hard work, discipline, and self-determination. Ironic that these were messages that they spread in China, but it still doesn't take away of what was truly important inside those messages. This was what you went to see as a kid in Hong Kong, and they would years later be released in America, dubbed for kids to see on their television sets. Hearing Gordon Liu talk about it really helps you understand the significance it had on the youth at that time.
Kung Fu movies are part of our culture. In the 1970s, many Kung Fu heroes were acknowledged, and they taught the public not to commit crimes, to protect the people, and so forth. The films weren't really for entertainment, but were more like social lessons.
These movies also went on to go and influence culture not only in China, but also in America. You can see the influence all over Wu-Tang Clan. RZA being probably the biggest fan of these movies.
The 36 Chambers of Shaolin. This is one of my favorite films of all time. I've seen it over 200 times.
The other huge fan of these movies is Quentin Tarantino. I found out about these movies from Robert Rodriguez's El Rey Network when I was a kid. I was like this little kid watching these things come on for the first time.
Watch Flying Five-Finger One-Armed Eight-Pole Shaolin Exploding Death Touch Thursdays. The 36 Chamber Trilogy.
These movies are available on both Netflix and Amazon Prime, so you don't have any excuses for not watching them. Enjoy the movies.